Kevin? I think we're on.
For the boys.
No, I think we're on. He said we were on.
Yeah.
Welcome to the September 26th, 2024 Planning Board public hearing. We'll take a roll call.
Chair LaFaro.
Present.
Vice Chair Finity.
Present.
Secretary is here. Board Member Mudu is absent. Board Member Neely.
Present.
Board Member Fulham.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We will go in order with the applications, and the first is Turtle Cove LL 77 Turtle Cove LLC. Do we have sufficient notice, Council?
We do, Madam Chair.
Great, thank you. And Tom, can you read it into the record, please?
Please take notice that in accordance with local law number 14 of 2022, a public hearing will be held by the Southampton Town Planning Board on Thursday, September 26, 2024 at 6 p.m. at Town Hall, 116 Hampton Road, Southampton, and via video conferencing to consider the final application entitled 77 Turtle Cove LLC. The application proposes a two-lot subdivision of a 39,000 square foot property situated in the R15 zoning district and New York State archaeologically sensitive area, located at 77 Turtle Cove Drive, North Sea, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-44-1-15.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, members of the board. Michael Selensky of Counsel for the Benicosta Group, 860 Montauk Highway, Watermill, New York, LLC, for the applicant. What you have before you tonight is a two-lot re-subdivision. So these two lots, this used to exist as two lots back during the original Turtle Cove subdivision in 1938. At some point between 1938 and the 1970s, it was merged into one lot, and we're seeking to re-subdivide it into two lots. It's in the R15 zoning district. One lot would be 19,583 square feet, and the second lot would be 19,417 feet, both of which are in excess of the minimum lot requirements of the R15 zoning district. The lots conform in both size and shape with the surrounding area, as you would expect from they were both part of the original subdivision. The neighborhood is all lots of similar size and shape, and we're just looking to reestablish the connection line between the two of them to create two lots.
What's the access point for the second lot, Mike?
It's a through lot, so it has frontage on two streets on each side.
No variance is required here.
No variance is required.
Is there anyone who wishes to speak to this application from the audience?
Sorry, could you say that again?
Would you like to speak to the application?
Turtle Cove.
Turtle Cove?
This is public hearing number 1.
Is there anyone on Zoom? Kevin?
No.
Nope.
No one on Zoom. Okay, then we'll motion for a 10-day written comment
10-day.
period by Dennis.
Second.
By Gloria, and all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor. Thank you.
Excellent, everyone. Have a good night.
You too.
Thank you.
Okay, we're moving on to number 2, the Lewis Reggio Horse Farm Agricultural Construction Permit, Special Exception. Dennis, do we have notice?
We do, Madam Chair.
Great. Dennis, you want to
Right.
read it?
Please take notice in accordance with local law 14 of 2022, a public hearing will be held by the Southampton Town Planning Board on Thursday, September 26, 2024 at 6 p.m. Town Hall, 116 Hampton Road, Southampton, via video conferencing to consider ag construction permit special exception application entitled Lewis Reggio Horse Farm. The application is for the demolition of the existing 21,630 square foot riding arena and the construction of a new 26,212 square foot riding arena and a 10,383 square foot stable to accommodate 18 horses, connected by a 371 square foot roofed unenclosed breezeway, two 10,000 gallon rainwater storage tanks, solar panels, generator, and two underground LP tanks, as well as associated parking, drainage, and septic improvements on Ag Reserve number 1 of the Meadowview Farm subdivision located 846 Seven Ponds Town Road, Watermill, tax map number 972-2-13.18.
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
Michael Schiano from InterScience Research Associates on behalf of the applicant. And together with me tonight, I have John Bennett, my client's counsel, and on Zoom I will also have the architect from Blackburn Architecture and John Hamilton from LaGuardia Design. First, I'll just to help to walk you through it, I have just a blow-up of the plan. So you can just pass that down. Thank you. And Brennan, if you could bring up the plans and go to the first page.
Mike, are any of these yours or no?
Yeah, so this is ours and this is ours, but I'm also going to go through the plans on Zoom because I also know that there are some people on Zoom that are here for this application as well. The subject property, 846 Seven Ponds Town Road in Watermill, is a 45.949 acre horse farm and horse stabling facility. The horse farm is private and not open to the public. The farm's property is divided into 3 different agricultural areas, which the board can see in the kind of inset map and is on this main map here. Agricultural Reserve 1 covers about 3 acres of land and is the only area where farm buildings can be constructed. Agricultural Reserve 2 covers about 1.048 acres and is meant to be used for public access by pedestrians and horseback riding. Agricultural Reserve 3 covers the remaining 41.869 acres of land, and per covenants on this property, which created it, can be used for farming operations and activities, including soil preparation, cultivation, fertilization, irrigation, and other activities related to agriculture and horse farming. There are currently farm buildings existing within Agricultural Reserve 1. These include a stable, an equipment barn, a standard barn, and then the existing indoor riding arena. In addition, there are several fenced outdoor open air paddocks where the horses can exercise outside within Agricultural Reserve 3, as is customary for a horse farm. Existing potable water and water for irrigation utilizes public wells, and the arena building, which includes an office for the farm staff, is air conditioned, and the existing building is air conditioned and has generators associated with it. Just to remind the board and for the benefit of the public, on August 10th, 2023, the Southampton Town Planning Board approved covenant amendments to the subject property that modified the boundary lines of Agricultural Reserve 1. Those amendments were made so that the activities included in this application could be proposed. Originally, the Agricultural Reserve 1 had extended almost entirely to the street, which was within the zoning setback. So in order to make the extension of the stable, we came to this board to have that redrawn and reconfigured, which was approved and now is shown on this plan. The purpose of this project is to construct a new indoor riding arena building and a new stable building at the property. To achieve this, the following activities are proposed. The existing 1-story arena building with an area of about 21,630 square feet will be demolished. In actuality, the owner has been in contact with a number of individuals who are interested in actually taking part or all of the existing arena building. So while we're saying it's demolished, it's actually going to be removed from the site and reused somewhere else. At least that's our hope. A new 1-story arena building will be constructed whose footprint will be 26,212 square feet and whose internal usable area will be 23,976 square feet. The internal usable area was confirmed with Chief Building Inspector Sean McDermott on February 7th, 2024, and was confirmed to comply with the zoning requirements for an arena building for horse stabling. In addition to that, a new 2-story stable building will be constructed with a footprint of 10,383 square feet and a total gross floor area of 13,637 square feet. The stable is designed to board 18 horses. The second floor of the stable building, which is only about 3,300 square feet, will be used as an office, lounge, and storage area for the farm staff. The two buildings will be connected, as Mr. Finnerty indicated in reading the public notice, by a 371 square foot roofed, unenclosed breezeway. Per the requirements of the health department, Prentice, can you just go to page 3, please? The stable building will be equipped with 2 separate septic systems, an IA OWTS for the office portion, and then a standard septic system for the stable area. And the purpose for that is that any hay and other stuff that goes into the drain system can't be serviced by the IAWTS. So it's 2 completely separate systems in accordance with health department regulations. The arena building will not have any plumbing inside of it. Potable water will continue to use an existing private well. Both new buildings will have fire sprinkler systems as required by the 2020 New York State Building Code. 2 10,000-gallon water tanks will be installed to collect rainwater from roof runoff. We are currently in the process of updating plans to include additional drainage per comments from the town engineer to make sure that the 10,000 square, so the 20,000 gallons of water tank storage is in addition to the 3 inches of storage that is required under the town code. Both of the new buildings will be equipped with solar panels to minimize energy usage. Our architects will be speaking more about that. And a new generator is proposed on the north side of the new arena building, about 90 feet from the northern neighbor's property line, and will be fully screened from view. And the existing dumpster area will remain, which is to the north east of, it's actually directly north of the stable building, the new stable building, and a new manure storage area is proposed next to the existing dumpster area. And this is meant to bring the property into compliance with the special exception use standards for horse farm and horse stabling facilities under section 330, 162.1. It's approximately 60 feet from the side lot line, where only 50 feet is required under the code. As this is a agricultural farm management facility, and we are proposing the construction of farm buildings and structures, this is a type 2 action under seeker. So up next is John Bennett to speak about the special exception standards.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, Michael. Thank you for that thorough explanation. As Mike mentioned, this is a request for an ag construction permit to allow construction of new stabling facilities and a new indoor riding arena. The subject property is already improved by stables, as Mike stated, as well as an indoor riding arena. Stables were certificated by the building department in 1989, and the arena benefits from a certificate of compliance issued in 1997. Thus, we would submit the horse farm is an existing use on the property. That 97 certificate of compliance, the code was amended in 93 to require these things to go through special exception approval. So I'm assuming that didn't get a certificate of compliance in 97 without having already received special exception approval. So I think the board has already granted special exception approval on this. However, we did, to remove any argument one way or the other, we did apply for a special exception approval, and we submitted a petition, a special exception petition for that. So I'm just going to take you through that because I think that it's important And given the fact that this is an extremely large property, I've done a lot of horse farms out here and then in the town of Southampton, both before and after the special exception amendments, and this is on one of the more generous parcels. 331.22 says that the use has to be in harmony and promote the general purposes and intent of the chapter. These are all permitted uses. It's an ag reserve property, and of course the horse farm will preserve the agricultural soils and natural areas. There's going to be no disturbance of any of the prime agricultural soils. The plot area is sufficient. It's 45, almost 46 acres, more than adequate for the use. The minimum size is 10. This is what is that? 4.5 times, something like that. Almost 5 times the minimum size. Will not prevent the orderly and reasonable use of adjacent properties. Adjacent properties are all in the same zoning district. They're quite far away. Residential and agricultural uses are permitted. It's particularly suited for a horse farm because it's an ag reserve surrounded by a very low density development. Some of the stuff is just rote, but I have to go through it. It's not unsuitably near a church, school, theater, recreational, or other place of public assembly. Conforms with all the special exception standards, and I'm going to talk to you about the more specific standards. The access facilities are adequate. We're not within 75 feet of any intersection. The existing curb cuts will be utilized. Sufficient on-site parking. There is no specific parking required, but there's more than adequate parking. Adequate side yards and screening, and adequate provisions for both stormwater, runoff, and wastewater treatment. These are all the general standards that one has to meet, and they're all contained in the special exception petition, which I drafted and submitted as part of the application, which was submitted back in May. Again, at 45.9 acres, where the minimum size is 10 acres, if you use the actual standard for horses per acre, you could have about 100 horses here. We're somewhere around 18 to 20 horses, so well within that standard. The fencing and stabling are existing to prevent the escape of livestock from the property. All manure is and will be collected and stored more than 100 feet from any property line and more than 50 feet from any side yard. Any feed and grain storage will be secured. The property has a lot size of 45.949 acres. It could have up to, believe it or not, it can have up to 4 indoor riding arenas, indoor exercise rings, or horse stabling facilities per this subsection. We'll only have 1 and 2 stables, and therefore the project complies with the specific standards, as it will only have 3 buildings. We did meet, and it's part of the a written determination from Sean McDermott dated February 16th, 2024, that all buildings are fully compliant with the size limitations within the code and require no variance relief. Take a look at that letter. He says 2 things. He talks about the number of buildings and says that we're well in compliance with the code. And he also states, as Mike stated before, that although the footprint is 26,000 plus or minus, you only take for the 24,000 square feet, you only take the interior space, and that's in Sean's February 6th, 2024 letter. It was part of the application. We met with the Agricultural Advisory Committee, who was supportive, didn't raise any objection whatsoever. I think that's really very critical, because those are people who, they're all farmers, and they're very concerned about preservation of agriculture and prime agricultural soils, and they were supportive of this application. I was very happy to see that. Even though it's a referral, that's very important to me for these types of uses. These are the people that are really on the ground in terms of these types of uses, so I was very happy to see that. We also received approval from the Architectural Review Board. So it meets all the definitional requirements. This is a private horse farm. Any horse shows or any other type of equestrian spectator events would only occur upon application to the town board and subject to their review. There's no commercial enterprise such as a tack shop or anything like that. Again, it's an existing horse farm. Property owners proposing to improve the quality of the architecture and provide adequate stabling facilities in an indoor arena. We were before the board several months ago, and as Mike said, the board was kind enough to shift the area of allowable agricultural structures. It just made sense before because you had a good part of it was hugging the road, and it didn't meet any of the setbacks. So this is a special exception petition. No variance requests are needed, as I have to remind you that if you meet the standards, it's not like a variance. If you meet the standards, which we do handily, then we're supposed to get an approval because it's the town board, and their wisdom has laid out not only the general standards for a special exception, but also the specific standards which we meet handily. Remember, I'm always quick to remind people that the correct terminology is this is a use that is permitted upon special exception. So it's essentially a permitted use that the legislature in its wisdom wants to make sure that some specific conditions are adhered to, and we adhere to all of them. I don't know if the design team wanted to say anything, but I'll let you talk about that, Mike.
I believe either Carol or Isabella from Blackburn Architecture is on Zoom.
Yes, can you hear me?
I think so.
Can you hear me, Mike?
Very well.
It's kind of low. We
Turn
raised
up my
the volume.
sound.
I don't know.
Is that better?
Yes.
Just give us your name for the
Okay.
record, please.
Yes. My name is Carol Vanderbosch. I'm the project architect for this project, representative of Blackburn Architects, and we are the architect of record for this project. So if you flip to the picture page, I think is a good place to start to show the existing. Yes. So that is what is existing on the site. This is an indoor arena with stalls along the backside. Everything is housed within one big building. So we are proposing to take that down and replace it with two buildings connected by a breezeway, as Mike and John have explained. So if you flip to the next page, yes. So the style of the project is very traditional. We have cedar shingle siding along most of the exterior facades, with some hardy siding at the arena to break up the shingles. We have heavy timber elements in a natural stain finish and a standing seam metal roof throughout that will have a non-reflective finish on the surface, but that gives us some durability and longevity in the roof surface. We also, another goal of this project is to be as sustainable as possible. And so with that, Mike mentioned the solar panels, that is the darker rectangles on the roof of the arena. And we'll working with the mechanical engineer to show how much energy we can produce there within the requirements of the power company, and pairing that with geothermal heating and cooling equipment to be as energy efficient as possible. We also have the lighter rectangles on the roofs or skylights to bring in natural light and ventilation to make this bright and airy on the inside. We are planning to have a rainwater recapture system so that we can capture the rain and feed it into an irrigation system on the property, and to use as many materials as possible that are made of recycled content or from sustainable sources. So there's a goal to be as sustainable as possible and detailed as possible as we can, and mindful of our material choices. We did present an alternative cupola and dormer design to the Architecture Review Board. Those are on the following pages, and they approved of that slight change for our exterior design. So this is our preferred, our dormers and the roofs of the cupolas changed to a more spire appearance and have more windows in the front at main entrance of the barn. So that was a small change there, but we reviewed that with the Architectural Review Board.
Prerna, can you just go to the next slide? We do have a comparison of the two. The next one after that, sorry.
Yes.
This just compares. So the one that we had initially submitted to the planning board is on the bottom, and the one that our preferred alternative is on the top. And in the Architectural Review Board's referral back to this board, they indicated that they approve of the preferred alternative. Carol, you can continue. Sorry.
Yes. Yes, and those are it's the main overview of the architecture of the buildings themselves. I'll hand it off to John Hamilton to talk about landscape design.
Brenna, can you
Hello,
go to
good
page
evening, everyone.
33? Sorry, John.
Can you hear me, Mike?
Yep. I'm just making sure that we get to your plans.
Thank you. Yeah, 5.1 would be great to start on. So good evening, everyone, board members. Thank you for your time tonight. John Hamilton, landscape architect with LaGuardia Design Group. We're based in Watermill, New York, on behalf of the clients. And this project, I'll take you through some of the landscape architectural features of the design. We worked very closely with the architects and Mike and John to really site these buildings in a thoughtful way, and then to create and build a landscape around them that really has always been there and appears to be mature in the way it scales down and grounds these structures. So the driveway system is a loop. It's a standard width, a 16-foot wide driveway. It's a gravel driveway similar to what's on the property now. And the real update there is that we're trying to make this into a loop driveway around the buildings. The property obviously entails horse trailers, quite large vehicles. Will come in here from time to time, so we wanted to make sure the circulation is very functional. As John mentioned, we need to accommodate some parking. So you'll see in front of the arena, we have quite a few parking spaces dedicated for access there. The planting plan itself, which is the sheet you're looking at here, in terms of screening, along the northwest and the north property line, you'll see a purple hatch. Those are all mature evergreen trees, Cryptomeria japonica, really beautiful, deer-resistant evergreen. So we're going to line that property line with those trees. They're going to go in at a 16 to 18 foot height, so a very large evergreen. They're going to grow, very even much larger than that over the years. But 16 to 18 is a very nice day one start for the screening over there. Some other plants kind of going on in the palette here would be some mature deciduous shade trees, and some of these are already found on the property. So we're trying to kind of play off the mature trees that can be found throughout the 40 plus acres already. And some of those trees include London planes, tulip trees, one of my personal favorites. That's a native to Long Island, a really great shade tree. Mount Fuji cherry. There are some really amazing mature cherry trees on the property. So we're going to be kind of taking all these and blending them around the three sides of the structures: the north side, the east, and the south. And these are going in again at a 5 to 6 inch caliper. So these are probably at least 25, maybe 30 feet tall on installation. And quite a few trees, at least I think the tulips and the London planes come out to be around 45 trees. So this is quite the investment on behalf of the clients to create an amazing impact to the screening and the grounding of these buildings immediately when construction is done. Just one point to note, you'll see on the west side of this plan, just west of the arena, we don't have anything proposed. And that's really due to the existing conditions between this structure and the road. There are some just incredible mature oak trees that are already in that location. So it really doesn't make sense to plant anything else there. They're probably 70 to 80 feet tall with 50-foot wide canopies. So it's already very well screened from the street. There also is an existing mature privet hedge. I believe it's about 12 feet tall along the road out there. So there's a couple layers of screening between these buildings and the road that are quite effective. We're just kind of going to be putting back some more trees around the other three sides of these buildings. And I think that's most of the planting strategy here. Maybe you could flip to the lighting plan, the landscape lighting, the next sheet, please. Thank you. And the lighting here, this is very simple and functional. We're really just proposing path lights along the driveway and walkway areas for safety and functionality. They're all down lights. They're dark sky compliant, LED low voltage. So you can kind of see those around these parking areas and the walkways. And then if you needed Carol to touch on the down lights on the buildings, this plan shows those as well. And those are, again, all pointed down kind of along the facade here, and they really don't spill light too far from the building itself. So the lighting in general is very minimal, and we're just doing it for safety and functionality, really nothing more than that.
Just to interrupt you, John, real quick. So on this plan, you see the yellow areas. That's the only place we're likely to be. So beyond that, it's 0-foot candles to the property lines and all around. So it's really just in the immediate area of the building in order to provide just access and safety around the building. Everything else is going to be dark, and also the level of light adjacent to the building is fairly low. So it's not going to be this bright, shining building even at night. It's going to be just enough to provide access and safety into and out of the building.
Thanks, Mike, and thank you for your time, everyone. That was everything I had.
Can you give us an overview quickly of the paddock areas, any of the grazing areas around the farm?
They're all existing and they're going to remain. So there's a number of paddocks. Prentice, can you just go to page 3? Actually, no, let's stay on that page. So I'll point it out on this plan because it's a little bit easier for the board to see. So there are a number of paddocks just around for the exercise of the horses and some of the rescue animals that they have on site as well. And they're existing and they're going to remain. So this the entire area between the neighbors around the building and where the buildings are will remain green and open, and the fencing is of a reasonable height, and that's basically it.
And Mike, you had mentioned there's going to be a lounge for the workers, employees, whatever, at the second floor.
On the second floor.
There's no living quarters on the
There
property.
are no living quarters in this building or any of the buildings that are on
On the
site.
property.
Yes.
Could you clarify the sanitary system, the 2 sanitary systems for the horse washdown? It's kind of unique. What was it, like a metal grating?
I believe that is, we're still trying to figure out exactly what it's going to be. Under the health department regulations, we have to have a separate system when you have a horse stabling facility. There has to be a completely separate one available for horse washdown areas, and that is the term that is used in the commercial standards of the health department. I am not sure at this moment, and maybe Carol has looked into it more, I'm not sure at this moment if it is a matter of that there are grates in each of the stables where that's where it'll go, or if there's a place where they take it to in the building and that's where it gets entered into the septic system.
Yes.
So the horses get
So-
washed.
So Carol?
Yes, sorry, just to clarify that, in the floor plan, we have a number of wash stalls and a vet barrier area in the cross aisle. So within those wash stalls, is how we call them, there are trench drains. So as you wash down the horse and water flows into this drain, you can imagine the amount of dirt, hay, manure that might also go into that drain. And there is a clean out within there to catch a lot of the debris. But I think that is the concern with the health department, that water runoff goes into a septic system that's separate from the sanitary system for the building as well. But it's those specific areas kind of at the top left of the plan, those 4 kind of 3 wash stalls and a vet barrier stall there that have drains in them. The other 2 on the other side of that aisle are groom stalls that won't have water washing down in them, but may be rinsed out or hosed down. So those have trench drains in them as well.
So
I'm not sure if you wanted me to point out where she was just talking about on the floor plan.
Yes.
does the health department require, like, I would think everything could go be channeled to a dry well. It appears they acquired the standard septic system for solids and then the overflow for after the solids. Is that something you add? Is that something they require?
That's something they require because any of the hay or grasses or any other debris that would be on the horses from the washdown you can't put it through a standard IA system because there's too much other biological matter, so it's not as efficient and also it would clog up the machines, mechanisms. So that's what they require.
That's a requirement of all horse farms now?
Yes. When you have horse stabling facilities on site, that is what's required.
Okay.
So just to point out here, it was, this is where the horse wash-up facilities are. And then she was mentioning the grooming stalls, so these have drains.
So theoretically, if they proposed a bathroom in the stable, that would have to have its own separate IA system?
And it does.
Okay.
So the bathroom that is in the facility, so there's a separate one for the staff to use. That is an IA system, and then all of the horse clean out area.
Goes into a
Yes.
truck,
Gotcha,
yeah.
okay.
And solar, you're installing
And
solar?
Yep.
And geothermal,
And
Geothermal,
geothermal,
yeah.
great. Great.
and electric charging stations for the horses.
Keep them going. Okay, we have a couple of people who'd like to speak. Wendy McCarthy, followed by Justin McCarthy. Okay,
We are the neighbors just to the left of this, 5.5 acres just to the left of the horse farm. And initially we say that the Riccios have been terrific neighbors for the last 25 years, and we're in support of what you're trying to do here, but we have a couple questions. And the one is, let me just see. How far, we were of the impression that the building was, the new building was not going to be closer to our property than the old building. Is that true?
It is not.
It is not.
We are.
okay,
Yeah.
just.
Yeah.
Why don't you just make a list of the questions?
Okay.
Yeah, and then he'll respond.
And what?
No, just,
Sarah,
I know
Sarah,
we
if you
know
can-
where it is, we've lived with that forever, and that's fine, but now you're putting in a second one. Where is
Mr.
that relative to the first one, and is it any more visible on our property than the first one?
Mr. McCarthy, just address the questions.
Okay,
first,
okay, I'm
And then
sorry.
we'll get him to respond.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
So there is a dump area, refuse area, that's behind our property and to the left of the buildings that are existing now. And now the proposal is there's going to be a second one of those because the building is larger and all the rest of it. Is that going to be closer to our property, and is it going to be more visible than the existing one?
Okay,
He's
we'll
gonna
get an
answer them
answer
at the
for
end.
you.
Next question.
Just ask all your
Okay.
questions.
Oh, you want them all?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
This water storage.
The water storage tanks are they below ground? Okay. And we did get a picture here of
Of the buildings?
what the outside of the building is, but I'm not sure we're completely aware of what that is. What is that going to
Can you
be
bring up the elevator?
more aesthetically pleasing than the existing structure? We were thought the existing structure looked pretty good.
There you
we're
are.
told
That's
that
what
this
they
is
look
supposed
There's
to
the
be
bar
very
and
nice.
that's the arena. Can you see that?
It's hard to see, but I would imagine that that's part of the.
He's
the
gonna
plan.
give you a copy.
Okay.
Okay.
That's it.
That's it.
Good, we'll have-
But we have no objections to the.
We'll have Mr. Shiano answer your,
Thank you.
Mike, can you answer his questions?
Okay.
Then Mike's gonna answer the questions. So first regarding the setback, Brennan, can you just go to page 3, please? So regarding the setback of the existing building and the proposed building, they're the same. We cannot get any closer to your property line because we are holding that existing setback, so we're not getting any closer. Regarding the question about manure storage and location, the survey and the plans that for the existing conditions hadn't identified exactly where the existing manure storage was, but I do know that we are keeping them in the same location, and this is not a separate one, this is just the same one. So it is not getting any closer to your property than what the existing one was.
What is
The water
storage?
storage,
And water storage is underground.
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 Yeah, so two 20,000 gallon tanks underground on the north side of the building right there. So they're underground, you won't be able to see them.
Great, I think that's it.
That's it.
Yes. You sure? Yeah. Yeah.
Mike, is there anyone else on Zoom who wishes to speak?
Kevin.
Kevin?
No.
No?
Just
No
asking.
one in the audience? Okay. No questions from the board, so we'll entertain a motion to close with a 10-day written comment period. Motion by Dennis, second by Kate, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Moving on to number 3, Heatherwood at Hampton Bays. Do we have sufficient notice, council?
We do, Madam Chair.
Gloria, want to read it into the record?
Please take notice in accordance with local law number 14 of 2022. A public hearing will be held at the Southampton Town Planning Board on Thursday, September 26, 2024 at 6 p.m. at Town Hall, 116 Hampton Road, Southampton, and via video conferencing to consider the pre-submission conference application entitled Heatherwood at Hampton Bays. The application proposes a mixed-use development with 11,266 square feet of ground floor retail commercial use, 9 multifamily rental units on the second floor, and approximately 3,000 square foot clubhouse for use by tenants within the office district zoned portion of the property, and 15 3-bedroom rental units, semi-attached 2-story townhouses with integral garages, driveways, and patios, outdoor pool and amenities within the multifamily zone portion of the property, situated in the office district OD at MF 44, located at 166 West Montauk Highway, Hampton Bays, Suffolk County Tax Map number 900-223-1-3.1.
Welcome, can you give us your name, please, for the record?
Sure. Good evening, members of the Planning Board. My name is Sean Sally. I'm the Senior Director of Planning and Development at Heatherwood.
And are you with Chris Capacci?
Chris Capiz is in the audience, yes.
Also with, his affiliation is,
Chris is our president.
okay? So please, tell
Okay,
us.
thank you. Heatherwood is the largest ground-up developer, owner, and operator of multifamily properties in both Nassau and Suffolk counties. We have over 70 years of experience in the residential real estate business, and we've never sold a multifamily community. We are vested, long-term property owners and partners. Heatherwood has submitted a pre-submission site plan application for property located on the north side of West Montauk Highway, directly to the west of Lamplight Circle in the hamlet of Hampton Bays. We are proposing to construct a zoning-compliant 2-story mixed-use development consisting of approximately 11,000 square feet of ground floor retail commercial use, 9 rental residential units above, 2 studios, 2 one-bedrooms, and 5 2-bedrooms, so 2 stories total, an attached clubhouse indoor amenity space for use by our prospective tenants, and a single structure located along the West Montauk Highway frontage. We're proposing parking in the rear of the mixed-use building and landscaping throughout. In the northern portion of our property, which is zone multifamily 44, we're proposing to construct 15 3-bedroom semi-attached 2-story townhomes, also rental, with integral garages, patios, and outdoor pool amenity space, also zoning compliant. Our proposal is compliant with the building and zoning ordinance of the town, and we are proud to be able to incorporate design elements and building massing guidance referenced in the proposed downtown Hampton Bays pattern book. As you will see in our site plan and mixed-use building elevation, our project incorporates walkability and downtown-oriented site planning concepts, such as utilizing the existing curb cut along Montauk Highway or Lamplight Circle, building near the street line with parking behind, and allowing for reciprocal cross-access with adjacent sites in between our, or passing through our parking area. Some specific details about our project. Again, we are zoning compliant. The rear of the property is zone MF44. It's about 65% of the lot. The total lot is 5.3 acres, so about 147,000 square feet. The development proposed on the rear portion is at roughly a 13% lot coverage, where 20% is allowed. So we're a little bit more than half what's allowed, so well below. 35% of the lot, or 1.9 acres, is in the OD zoning district. That's up at the south portion of the property, adjacent to West Montauk. In that zoning, in that portion of the lot zoned OD, we're at 16% lot coverage, where 30% is allowed. So again, we're about half of what's allowed, so well below permitted. As I mentioned earlier, in the OD zone, we are proposing 9 units on the second floor. That's 2 studios, 2 one-bedrooms, and 5 two-bedrooms. As prescriptive in the zoning ordinance, we are proposing 2 of the 9 units to be set aside as moderate income family units, which is 80% AMI, again prescriptive and required by code. In addition, on the first floor, we are proposing retail at roughly 11,000 square feet, and a clubhouse amenity, as previously referenced, of about 3,000 square feet, and that would be for the use of our prospective tenants. In the MF zone portion of the property, which again is in the rear portion, we're proposing 15 3-bedroom units. As the zoning code dictates, prescriptively, 2 workforce housing units will be set aside, and those workforce units residents are permitted up to having an income of up to 130% AMI. So again, 15 units total. 2 of those will be set aside as workforce housing units. Those units will have 1 or 2 car integral garages, attached patios, and views towards a pool amenity. We firmly believe in lifestyle living, and we think this design and this concept will really provide that type of living experience for our prospective tenants. Access and site plan, as I also mentioned earlier, we have the ability to provide access off of Lamplight Circle to our mixed-use portion in the OD zone, which means no additional curb cut on West Montauk Highway. We'll use the existing Lamplight Circle and provide ingress and egress off of Lamplight Circle, roughly 100 feet north of Montauk Highway. So again, we think, especially in a downtown corridor, reducing the number of curb cuts, not only for safety, but also for aesthetics and walkability. So we're excited to be able to provide that because we are the property owner just next door with Town and Country community. So we have that ability to consolidate curb cuts. In terms of on-site parking, we're proposing 36 parking stalls in the MF44 zone and 49 parking stalls in the OD zone, with the ability for additional land-banked parking should the need arise in the future. Sanitary sewage treatment, we have enough room on site to provide on-site septic treatment, whether it's a chromoplast or a BESS system, in accordance with the Suffolk County Health Department regulations. Our proposal will generate roughly 10,000 gallons per day. So again, right within the ability to provide on-site septic. We do understand Hampton Bays is in the midst of a potential sanitary sewer district, that we would be within those boundaries. So we would like to take advantage of any ability to connect to the prospective sewer districts should that proposal come to fruition. Again, we'll keep that in our design book. That is pretty much the sort of the high level of the application. Look forward to answering any questions you may have.
We have correspondence from the Hampton Bays Historical testified that your property at one time was a cemetery that was abandoned. Do you have any knowledge of that?
No, we do not. And respectfully, we think that claim is just false. We've owned the property for nearly 60 years, and this is the first we're hearing of the potential for a portion of the site to be a burial ground or cemetery. In good faith, we did commission a title certification that went back nearly 200 years over the title, and there was no record, no inclusion of any cemetery or burial ground documented in that report. Again, this is the first we're hearing about it. We've owned the property for nearly or over half a century, and we just don't see how that's possible.
Have you undertaken any physical examination, probes, or sonic surface evaluations of what's underneath there?
We have not. Again, respectfully, we felt there's never been a need to. There's never been any documentation that does state any potential burial ground. Again, we've owned it for 60 years. We maintain it. So there's been no. We really feel that the claim is false, and there's no supporting documentation to back that up.
Can you give an estimate on the parking that will be generated, the number of cars that you think this compound will result in?
Sure. Well, we do. Let me just point to the site plan. So if we'll talk about the mixed-use portion of the property first. The parking required for the residential component for the 9 units is prescriptive. So there's a ratio of required parking to units based on bedrooms, number of bedrooms. So we will be 100% compliant with that parking requirement on site. The retail parking, we understand the parking varies by use, whether it's a restaurant or some other type of commercial use. So we feel that we have ample parking laid out to support the potential. We at this stage we're in pre-submission. We don't have tenants lined up for the retail portion, as typically they want to see us closer to or under construction, typical with a potential retail lease. They're really not going to talk to you until you're further down the road. But again, we have ample space to provide on-site parking. As mentioned, we do have about an acre or a little bit more of potential land bank parking area, so that we never want to overpark and have that sort of sea of asphalt. So to the extent that we can keep it green space, and again, if the demand warrants, we can always convert that at a later date to additional on-site parking. But again, we're focused on maintaining on-site parking compliance. In the rear portion of the section of the property with the rental townhomes, those will also be totally compliant per town code based on the parking ratio to units. These units will have integral garages and driveway spaces, just like you would see it in a single-family home. And then there's potential for a few additional spaces. Again, we'd rather not have more asphalt and pavement than we need, but there is ample room to accommodate the parking requirement, and our project will or our proposal will comply.
You mentioned potentially a restaurant as a retail use. So you're making an assumption about septic flow that you might have wet uses in the retail space.
Yes, and at this early stage, we're just sort of formulating the potential high end and low end of the sanitary demand. But yes, we've incorporated a wet use in our sanitary calculations to understand the level of on-site treatment that's required.
And in terms of building, and what sustainability aspects, charging stations, solar, what are there any plans for implementing that kind of investment?
Sure. Well, the buildings themselves, I mean, we're obviously we've done other projects around the island recently that incorporate sustainability initiatives in terms of heating and cooling and electronic monitoring of lighting, LED lighting to reduce our energy demand. In terms of EV charging stations, yes, we'd be looking to incorporate charging stations into this development, both the mixed use and the townhomes in the rear. We just built a aspiring golf course and townhomes in East Setauket, where we have EV charging stations for both visitors and tenants. So we're a proponent of EV charging stations. We know how to install them. We've done it recently. So absolutely, we plan on incorporating EVs.
What about solar?
Solar is a little bit tricky based on, well, I shouldn't say tricky, but it's based on how much solar, your southern exposure, your ability to get sunlight to whether it's a roof or otherwise. So we can look into that further, but at this stage, we don't know yet if that's compatible with this particular site.
Well, I would encourage at least looking once you have a better sense of what the buildings are going to be like. Sure. Because it's surprising how much you can get when you actually do the real investigation.
Absolutely, we'll certainly look into it.
Any questions more from the board? If not, I'll ask Gail Lombardi.
Hi, good evening, and thank you for the privilege of coming before you guys. I'm speaking on behalf of myself, but I do ask that you keep the record open for the 10 days, as you have done, because we just got the notice, and I am a director of the Civic Association. And
It's
no
30 days, Gail. It's pre-submission, so it's
Oh,
a
okay.
30-day comment period.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
We haven't had a chance to look at it. So I have a bunch of random comments, and so I need to organize them better in those 30 days. Regarding the OD section being part of they called it the Darien, I think, cemetery. And again, it could be all folklore, and I can't speak to whether it is or isn't. I haven't done my own research. But this is the, I'll give it to you, Steve. I was just going to put it. That's the write-up in Villa Paul that's been there for at least 50 years, as far as I know. Talking about I think it's the Daines, D-A-I-N-E-S cemetery. And there's plenty of articles that have been written about, the spooky front of Town and Country. So I was a little confused by the presentation, and so I lived in Town and Country for a number of years between my two houses, and my friend lived there up until recently. It's almost impossible to make a left turn out of that driveway. You take your life into your hands there, Villa Pool, or if you're on the other side of the street trying to get out of I was going to call it the Blarney, but Buckley's. So, this project on its own sounds fabulous. The Manorville Heatherwoods is fabulous, and a lot of the facilities now. You guys, I think, are even doing some things in Brooklyn, fabulous on a standalone basis. But we're dealing with the Montauk corridor. You guys are looking at, our planning department is looking at hundreds of apartments between Cemetery Road and Squiretown Road. You have, the laundromat, you have the diner, you have a number of variances next to Clark Sinclair. You have a ton of development going on all at the same time. And I've come to this board, I've gone to the town board. You're not looking at things on a comprehensive basis. So this sounds like a fabulous project. The issue is the Town and Country apartments are on, I guess this is a separate block and lot when you talk about lot coverage. So I guess it's 3¼ acres, and you're talking about that lot coverage. I guess it's a separate block and lot, because if you look at the lot coverage on the Town and Country side, there's hundreds of apartments. I don't know what it is combined, if it's still at the lot coverage. I guess if it's a separate block and lot, you guys can evaluate it separately, but since it is the same owner, and it is part and parcel of the project, the Town and Country apartments, their septic systems, there should be some requirement that everything gets upgraded. I lived there, the laundry room is constantly flooded. So there's lots of more research that needs to be done on this, as well as how does it fit into the whole corridor now. They talked about a single curb cut, and yet the planning board, the planning department, between Squiretown Road and Springville is saying we need 12 more curb cuts. I'm exaggerating, of course, we don't need 12 more, but so we need to look at the corridor in a more comprehensive, and we need to look at the environmental on a more comprehensive view on the Montauk corridor. It is, we're not able to get out of those driveways now on Montauk Highway. It's very difficult, all the commercial development. So if you can, take a more comprehensive view of what's going on Montauk Highway with all the different projects. And like I gave you guys the Villa Pool details of the cemetery. Somebody's going to have to straighten that out. Is it folklore or is it true? But there should be some look into that before we have another Shinnecock Nation burial ground situation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak to the application who's here? Is there anyone on Zoom, Kevin?
No.
No questions from the board? So I'll entertain a motion because it's a pre-submission conference to close with a 30-day written comment period. Motion? Motion by Gloria, second by Kate. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to Richard Avedon Foundation. Do we have sufficient notice, Council?
We do, Madam
We
Chair.
do. Okay, and Kate, want to read it into the record?
Please take notice that in accordance with Local Law 14 of 2022, a public hearing will be held by the Southampton Town Planning Board on Thursday, September 26, 2024 at 6 p.m. at Town Hall, 116 Hampton Road, Southampton, and via video conferencing to consider the site plan special exception application entitled Richard Avedon Foundation. The application is for the construction of an approximately 10,000 square foot 1 1/2 story steel frame building and associated parking for a philanthropic, fraternal, social, or educational institutional office or meeting room nonprofit. Use on a 5.46 acre property situated in the CR 200 zoning district and Aquifer Protection Overlay District, located at 9 The Bridge, Noyak, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 900-22-2-6.
Thank you. Anthony Pasca and Elizabeth Baldwin from Essex Hefter Angel Italian Pasca. We are counsel for the Richard Avedon Foundation and as well as the owner of the property, 103 Co. LLC. Laura Avedon's also here, sitting over there, just in case you have some questions about this unique use that I can't answer, but I'm going to do our best here. This is kind of a one-off application in that I don't think there's any comparable example of anything quite like it in the town of Southampton, and we fall under a kind of unique category that might cover a few different things, but this is certainly in our opinion a one-off that sort of racked our brains about trying to come up with something similar. There really isn't anything. The Richard Avedon Foundation is a private not-for-profit foundation that protects the works and history of Richard Avedon, photographer and artist. And we, after consultation with the building department several years ago, determined that we could fall under a special permit use called the Philanthropic, Fraternal, Social, or Educational Institutional Office and Meeting Room Nonprofit.
That's a mouthful.
It is,
well,
and
I
it was.
just had to experience that myself. That mouthful. I said, "Oh my goodness."
Yeah, it's something we came across it, and we had conversations really early on about 4 years ago with both the planning department and the building department about, is this an opportunity for us, because the Avedon family has a home in the subdivision that we'll talk about in a little bit. And so this became sort of an opportunity that we did want to explore. And 4 years later, we're now here at the public hearing on this. You guys have at least seen this in some form throughout the years, pre-submission and before we went to the zoning board and came back. So I'll talk a little bit about the use and a little bit about the property. The property itself is it's up here is a flag lot in the Bridgehampton Road Races subdivision. For those of you who remember, it's a 20-lot residential subdivision plus the golf course property, which is north of the bridge, the road called the bridge. And so all the subdivision lots kind of extend out this way. This is the first lot as you come in off of Millstone down the bridge. This is the first residential lot in the subdivision. Most of the lots are still vacant. There's a few that have houses on them or in process. But because it's a flag lot, it's a little bit unique in that it's surrounded essentially by woods. So it's got open space on the north side, preserved open space here, preserved open space here, a couple of these flag lots owned by Sandland Corp. And then the only residential lot that is affected by this is this lot 2 that's immediately to the east of it. And the rest of the residential lots get further and further away. Lot 2 is also controlled by the same owner as lot 1. So we have letters of support, obviously, from Mr. Rubin, whose family controls not only lot 2, but 8 other lots in the subdivision. We also have letters of support from the golf course, which controls all the property to the north of the road. And we have a letter of support from the HOA, which owns the road, as well as from Gary Davis, who controls another 5 lots within the subdivision. So essentially, the community, the subdivision community, which is its own, those of you who've been there, it's not really accessible from Millstone unless you make the turn into the golf course property and the bridge. So it's really its own unique thing, and everybody in the subdivision community supports this. And the reason is that the use itself, aside from it being in a sort of the perfect spot for it, the use itself is a benign use. And a lot of times we look at special permit uses, and really the main reason they're designated to be a special permit use is because there's a concern over potential impacts and whether it's suitable for a particular community or not. This particular use, especially when you compare it to what it could be, a house on a 5-acre lot, if you've seen the design plans, the building itself, which is designed in a modern vernacular, doesn't have a lot of windows. And that's on purpose because the foundation is going to be negatives stored in this building. So there's some sensitivity to not having too much sunlight coming into the building. It's not zero, but it's limited on purpose, which wouldn't be the case if it were a single-family residence. It's only going to be operated during business hours. We're not going to have nighttime lighting and nighttime uses there. There are no outdoor activities on this property. So unlike a normal single-family residence, you're not going to see a pool, you're not going to see a tennis court, you're not going to have any activity outside. And so the impacts, quote unquote, from this use are, we believe, more benign than you would even see from a single-family residence. So that was part of the reason why the community thinks it's sort of an ideal use for this one particular property. A little more specific about the use itself, the expectation is about 3 to 4 people working here. So it's a fairly big building, but most of it is going to be for storage of the archives, which includes not only the works, the prints, the negatives, but also journals and documentary literature. So again, that's a passive use of the building, but we'll talk about parking in a little bit. it does generate on paper a need for parking that doesn't actually exist in reality. So you're going to have about 3 or 4 people working here. It's not open to the public. It's not a gallery. You won't have the public coming in and out. It's going to be shows. It's not going to be a place for parties. It's literally an office building with a lot of storage for the archives. And that sort of a difference between what maybe you might perceive as a more public, not-for-profit institution. There are some out there. We're nothing like that. This is literally going to be just an office and the storage. So we have addressed in our papers the very specific criteria for the special permit. I don't think I'm going to go through those with you other than talking about it in this sort of high level of what the impacts are. I mentioned the support from the neighborhood. We do have letters that were submitted into the record, and when we had to go first to the zoning board, the reason we went to the zoning board was because the special permit, this mouthful of a use, one of the specific requirements was 200 feet of frontage on a collector street. And the bridge is not a collector street, so we had to go to them. We've submitted the zoning board's decision to you guys, and one of the basic import of that decision was they were convinced it was a benign use. And the fact that there wasn't 200 feet of frontage along Millstone, for example, is not a bad thing for this particular type of use. Having the woods essentially protect the use from this road and having the open space that's controlled by the town to the west protect any impacts coming off of Millstone was sort of an ideal surrounding for this key-shaped lot. So if you see in the zoning board's decision, there's a lot of terminology like it's a benign use, it's not an intensive use, and we think the same kind of considerations work exactly the same for the special permit conditions. We're also here for site plan, so you guys have both special permit and site plan jurisdiction. I know this board's done some site planning on the residential lots within, at least the ones that have gotten building permits, because the residential lots have a unique condition that they all go through site plan. But really there's not that much unique about this site plan. It's designed to 3-inch stormwater. Most of it is going to be wooded, and so there's not that much to the landscaping other than leaving it natural. The one thing I did want to point out is the parking, because on paper we're required to show quite a lot of parking spaces, 38, based on the way the planning department and engineers kind of considered storage space and
Good land bank.
we are. And so what we've proposed, the only actual physical parking lot that we proposed is 5 spaces. We have a couple of handicap spaces over here, and then a 3 regular spaces over here, one of which will have an EV charger. The rest of this part of the parking lot is all grass. So it'll physically exist as a grass field, but it will not have any other improvements. And then this piece over here will exist as a land banked parking space. That's the amount that the planning department felt comfortable telling us to just put as a land bank. But the reality is that these 5 spaces are all we expect to need. So just because it looks like on paper there's a big parking lot here, it's really just going to be grass. I'm not sure I have much else to talk about unless you guys
And you're
have
in an
questions.
APOD, so you're not clearing more than what you need for the building and parking. Right?
Correct, that's correct. There's a 35% limit that governs these lots in the subdivision that was based on some formulas that happened when clearing areas were preserved here and elsewhere. And so every lot in the Bridgehampton Road Races subdivision has a 35% cap, and we are not exceeding that cap.
So you're not undertaking any events? There's no events? What about, will it be open for scholarly research? the archives?
Oh, you could have, as a private, if you made a private arrangement for somebody who wanted to make a private arrangement to come to the office, that's possible. But it's not going to be open to the public. For example, there won't be a sign out there unless you have made a very specific arrangement to work with the foundation. There's no reason for you to be there.
So it's just essentially a repository for it's an archive.
It's an archive.
It's an archive,
It's archive.
absolutely.
Yeah.
An archive with the archivist and the office, the foundation's office people working.
Can we put a limitation on saying that as part of the final approval?
I don't see why not, as a condition,
Yeah.
several conditions.
Yeah. So they would have to, if they're gonna do that, they'd have to come back here and stuff.
But I understand that, and obviously anything we've put in the application, that's expected. Put in the application because that's how it's going to be operated.
Okay, any other questions? Does anyone want to speak to this? I don't see anyone here. Anyone on Zoom, Kevin?
Nobody.
No? Okay.
By the way, can I mention, I think there's a secret that has to be done on this. The zoning board did its own uncoordinated secret, but
Type 1?
going back through my recollection, I don't know
type
that this
one.
board ever.
Coordination is optional.
Yeah, but I don't know that this board's ever done it, so I just want to remind you to
It's on this
incorporate that.
Coordination's optional
Yes.
on this.
Agreed. It's just a reminder, that's all.
Okay, thank you. Entertain a motion for a 10-day
10 days.
written comment period by Dennis, second by Tom. All in favor? Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor, 1 absent. No, 6 in favor, 1 absent. 5 in
1,
favor,
2, 3, 4,
1 absent, yes.
5.
Five,
Yes, George is out. And,
five and one.
motion to adjourn.
Yeah.
Yes, 5 and
All
1.
right.
It's been a long day.
It's a long
folks.
day.
Fine,
No
they know
food,
that
no
too.
sleep.
Motion to adjourn.
I will.
By
Motion to
Kate,
adjourn.
second by Gloria. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 5 in favor, 1 absent.